Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's City Council Minnehaha County Commission joint meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 22nd, and we're certainly pleased to have you all here. If we could start with a roll call of the City Council, please.
Council members Aguilar, Anderson,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Entenmann, Erpenbach,
Here.
Jameson,
Here.
Litz,
Here.
Rolfing.
We do have a quorum of the City Council.
Yep, I'd like to call the Minnehaha County Commission to order.
Thank you. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I'd like to welcome all of you here today. If I could just get a motion to approve today's regular agenda.
So moved. Litz. Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion to approve today's agenda by Councilor Litz. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a vote on that, please.
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Brown, Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That is 6-0 has passed the City Council. Could we move on to item number 1, please?
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of said city by rezoning property at 47135 260th Street from the A1 Agricultural District to the McCrossin Boys Ranch Plan Development District.
Thank you. Is there any yes, please. Welcome.
Scott Anderson, Minnehaha County Planning and Zoning, and I'm here to present the request tonight and give you some background. This is a rezoning request to rezone property from A1 agriculture to a planned development. And for those that are not familiar where McCrossin Boys Ranch is, it's located north of Interstate 90 and east of Marion Road. There's the new interchange there. And if you look on the screen before you, you will see the properties outlined in red, and it consists of approximately 120 acres. This item was before the Planning Commission on the Joint Planning Commissions of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County on January 24th. And we had a lot of good discussion. And the applicant has, like any good organization, they are in the process of doing some long-range planning. And they have submitted a plan for review to the Planning Commissions, which outline future growth for this area. Some of the growth revolves around the educational aspect of the school. Some of the growth and the future uses will occur with the agricultural uses that are in the area, dealing with a riding arena and some other uses. And finally, there is a small area, a sub area for a commercial area, which is right at the interchange on Marion Road at the new interchange. And primarily that will be a small area for a convenience store, welcome visitor center, welcome center, and some storage units, which will be managed by the staff and the youth at the McCrossin Boys Ranch. So with that being said, I have some slides, and we can go showing you the general vicinity. And I apologize because you can see the date that I took this was in January, and it's difficult to see. You see a lot of snow, but you can see the facilities. This gives you an idea of some of the administration and some of the classroom facilities are there. And I think there's one more slide. Once again, you can see some of the classrooms and dorms. And I think the last slide shows the vicinity. The bottom right picture, you can see the general facility, the new interchange, the Marion Road interchange, and the proposed location of the commercial activity that's going to occur there. So I believe that's that's all of the slides. Well, this shows you the parcel and on Marion Road looking south at the new interchange. So I have prepared an ordinance, and it is included for your review. As I indicated, this would be the second reading and final adoption of the ordinance, which would create 3 sub-areas, basically a commercial, a institutional residential aspect, and an agricultural sub-area. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Scott, thank you. Before we answer questions, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this particular item, to speak to either your county commissioners or to the city council? Yes, welcome, sir. If you could just state your name, please.
My name's Spencer Ruff, 405 South 3rd Avenue, Suite 302. I'm the architect for the project. I worked with McCrossin to translate their long-range plan into a master plan, and then worked with Scott to prepare the PD. So I think I'm probably the person most familiar with all the nuances of the project. And as Scott was saying, what we're looking at are 3 sub-areas: a small commercial area, which is on the northwest corner of the site, about 5 acres, and then kind of a central core around their existing campus, which is zoned residential, and then the remainder of the property is left in its agricultural state. With the extension of Marion Road north, we now have a very nice paved road all the way out. And McCrossin has built a new road that comes in at the end of the Marion Road extension, a paved road that goes onto the site. So in the past, all the visitors had to drive on a gravel road, which was very, very messy. Now it's nice and clean, no dust raised by anybody coming or going from the site. The other thing that has happened is because of the extension, McCrossins now can hook on to city water, which they've been operating on a rural water system. This is very critical to McCrossins because there's 2 buildings out at McCrossins that are going to be required to have a building sprinkler system installed by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And as you well know, on a rural water system, there isn't enough volume or pressure to do that. Those plans are ready to go out to bids, and they will be bid very soon to extend city water onto the site. We've also explored looking at extending city sewer to the site. The sewer is available on the south side of the interstate, but at this time it's not economically feasible to bore that far underneath the property. At the present time, McCrossins is operating on an approved lagoon system, which they use, which is big enough to accommodate some of the future use, and hopefully by the time it's exceeded, the capacity is exceeded, there will be an opportunity to perhaps look at annexing the property into the city and extending the city sewer across that side. So it's a very exciting project. It's a project that will take place over the next 15 to 20 years. There is an immediate need to get the PD approved, in that McCrossins would like to build a new independent living apartment house for the older boys to live in. And we need to be able to get a building permit and go through the final development plan process that's built into the PD. And so upon approval of that, then McCrossins can continue forward with their plans. I just talked to the executive director today, who's here, Brian, and he said they're filled to capacity and they're turning away boys. So, my involvement with McCrossins has been over about the last 2 years. I was the architect for their new chapel, which is a great addition to the facility, and there obviously is a tremendous need, and McCrossins is attempting to move forward to fulfill that need. So I'll be quiet now and listen to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Ruff? Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, my only concern with this is that you're giving up areas that potentially you may need for future expansion of your main mission. And have you, when you look at that, are you doing that? I know you've got the land to the east there, that is still agricultural, and you could go down there if you needed to expand. Is that the most likely land to expand on, or would it be back to the west for the boys?
Well, if you look at, on that drawing, you'll see it divided into 3 red squares.
Right.
The square all the way to the right, with the exception of the construction of the executive director's home, will be left just exactly the way that it is. The square in the middle is where the real expansion takes place in terms of the ranch, and the master plan accommodates all of their needs for the next 15 to 20 years within that square. The square furthest to the west, as I said, the northeast corner, about 5 acres, is for commercial development. In that area is also an athletic complex that they're looking at, which is a ball diamond and a football field that also has the capacity for soccer. So to answer your question, there's what we planned will easily accommodate everything, and if McCrosson's would grow beyond that, we still have that whole 40 acres to the east. However, McCrosson's is very much a ranch, and with the horses and those activities, the idea from a design concept was to concentrate the buildings in the center core and to leave the east portion of it empty, so that it could be used as pasture land and for agricultural kind of uses. Because when we talk about agricultural, they don't grow crops. What they do is they raise grass for the horses, and they need places for the horses to run. So, yes, and that's the nice thing about a master plan, is that it does test out that. Is the site big enough? Is there room for future growth? And the answer is yes.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Any comments from neighbors or?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. We had a neighborhood meeting, and we had 6 neighbors show up, and all 6 of them were extremely supportive of the project. And realizing there aren't a lot of neighbors, but we reached out to them. We did invite them. We had a very nice meeting, about an hour and a half long, asked a lot of excellent questions, and they were very, very satisfied and very supportive.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I went to Axtell Park during the middle and late 60s. I did. And the yellow McCrosson's bus used to pull up, and I knew most of those kids that attended Axtell Park back in those days, so I've got kind of a soft spot in my heart for it, and I was glad to see this thing come forward. But, the thing that keeps occurring to me on this Marion Road interchange is we've got 2 road interchanges into Sioux Falls off of Interstate 90. One of them is Cliff Avenue, and the other one's Marion Road. And I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but 20 years from now, 30 years from now, this area is going to grow substantially due to that intersection being in there. And you may be sitting on some pretty prime property right there on your corner. And I guess you just said you're going to put ball fields down there, and I think that's probably a real good move, because there may be the time that comes that property becomes so valuable that it would be an asset for McCrosson's to sell it off and purchase some land if another opportune sale comes up. So.
And yes, I would agree with you. And the ball diamonds are actually on the east part of the west part of the site. So we've maintained kind of a clear zone about 400 feet back east of Marion Road, because it became very obvious to McCrosson's and to myself that your point's well taken, that may someday be developed into a heavier commercial area. At this time, we did not want to go there. We're just leaving it agricultural for now, which in the future gives all of you an opportunity and the neighbors in the community to have say if the was ever thought about doing it. So.
Well, it would be your folks' property, and I think it bodes well for your future.
Yes, and that is the interchange was welcomed for a great many reasons, and that future potential most certainly was one of the reasons that it was welcomed. So,
thank you.
Commissioner Murtha.
I also think this is an exciting location, and I think it's great that you guys are planning for the future. The question that I have, and it's a question that other citizens have brought up, is when you are operating these enterprises like a convenience store, Do you plan on doing that as a non-taxed entity, or do you feel that they would be taxable? And I know that we've had other things in our area for other nonprofits which have operated, on a, they tried to operate anyway as a nonprofit. At the same time, I hate to see people in business having to compete with someone who has a leg up. And I guess what would be the plan for you folks?
Well, I'm going to yield the mic to somebody who knows far more about that than I do, the executive director, and have him address it.
Sir, welcome. If you could just state your name, please.
Brian Rogiers, Executive Director, McCrossins. As far as the tax goes, we have really not explored in depth what would happen as far as the business part of that commercial corner at this point. We see that part of the project being a ways down the line as far as our overall plan for our site and our planned development district. We believe that we can use this particular site to actually have training and jobs for our boys, and also to create another funding stream separate from government funding, which we all know is very stretched at this point. And so that's part of our idea with having that commercial corner. We would probably want to run that business, whether it was taxed as a for-profit business would be taxed or not. I mean, either way, we think it's a good idea to run that. So we would stay within, obviously, any federal or state guidelines for nonprofits when we get to that point, and would certainly in the future here plan to explore that in greater depth when we got closer to actually putting something at that corner. I understand what you're saying.
Brian, did you have any other comments you wanted to relay to the commissioners or to the council members?
I think the main thing that I would want to say, and I think Mr. Ruff alluded to it, but I think a lot of you know that there's been two major juvenile facilities in South Dakota that have recently decided to close their doors. We didn't know about that when we started all of our planning, but that indeed has happened. There's a program out in the northwest corner called Sky Ranch that decided to close up after 50 years of serving children. And then Springfield Academy in Springfield, South Dakota is also closing their doors. We have already seen some of the aftermath of that, if you will, that we're getting a higher volume of referrals. We're as busy as we've ever been right now. We have really on the top of our list getting the city water hooked up, and right pretty close to that would be building the independent living unit that Mr. Ruff talked about, and that's for 18 to 21-year-old boys that will not be going back home. We're getting them ready to go out into the community on their own. Statistics show, not just in our state but around the country, that's a high area for recidivism with kids who have been in trouble. And we really see a high need not only in South Dakota in our area but in our region for that type of service. And so we're hoping to, if all goes well, to be able to start that building yet this spring and get it built yet this summer. And it would virtually double the size of the service that we provide now.
Yes, Commissioner Kelly.
Okay. This really doesn't have anything to do with the PD, but the kids that occasionally have a walk away or run, and usually they get into trouble stealing a car or something like that. What happens with those kids? Are they kicked out or
generally speaking, they are detained when they are caught if they get in further trouble in the community. There's a lot of times when kids walk away we go find them and bring them back ourselves. But there are those occasional times where they get in trouble when they're out on run, and generally they're detained for a period of time. We go back in and re-interview them, re-look at the situation, and in most cases they don't return back to the ranch. The ranch, actually, if you look at the continuum of care in South Dakota, we're actually the third tier of service. The highest end is called intensive residential treatment, which has lots of locked doors. And then there's a PRTF level, which is a psychiatric care level, which also has greater security, greater ratios of staff to children. Then comes McCrosson's as a group care center after that. And so we don't have the locked doors. Occasionally kids do walk away from the site and occasionally then get into trouble. But we always look at each one of those cases, as we do even when we decide who comes to McCrosson's, each one individually.
Well, thank you very much for your efforts as well, and thanks for answering the questions. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to the county commission or the city councilors in regards to this topic? Very good. Well, then I'll wave to the commissioners or to the city council at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve.
Second, Litz.
Councilor Brown has made a motion to approve this item. It was seconded by Councilor Litz. Is there any further discussions or amendments? Or?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Brown.
I move to amend the main motion by changing language under other regulations for subareas A, B, and C from a final development plan is required for all main uses to prior to construction on any lots in the McCrosson Boys Ranch plan development, a final development plan shall be presented to the Planning Commission for its approval.
Second, Litz.
Councilor Brown has made a motion to amend this item, and it was seconded by Councilor Litz. Is there any further discussion on the amendment?
Can I ask, could you give us a little more explanation on what you're doing there?
I would defer to Jeff if you want to talk about the amendment for us, please.
Jeff Schmidt from the city planning staff. It's the wording in both sub-areas in regards to requiring a final development plan. So it's for all developments that come through except for accessory buildings. So it's just clarifying what the language is. Thank you, sir.
Mayor? Jeff, is that going to be, it says to the Planning Commission, but since they're not within the city right now, would that be the County Planning Commission it gets turned into?
That's correct. It would be currently to the County Planning Commission, but the ordinances are set up as a joint jurisdiction that if and when it gets annexed in the City of Sioux Falls, it translates. So then at that point, it would come into the city's Planning Commission.
Commissioner Peckus, there's been a recommendation from the city clerk's office that the county commission vote on this item first. This is a joint meeting as well. I need the people of the county and the city to know. So Commissioner Peckus is here to help lead the charge for the county. Yep. Commissioner Peckus?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would make the motion using Councilman Brown's language.
Very well. Is there a second? I'll second that. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead.
One question. Jeff, do they, once they get the PD, do they still file plats? No. I mean, the joint jurisdictional has control over the plats.
Correct.
But is there any plats in a PD, or is it we've just taken the whole thing and then they'll?
They're not required to plat at this point. So if they would come in and start like subdividing and selling off parcels, then they would plat. But they're not required to plat just with their development.
As long as they retain the ownership.
Correct.
So really, I mean, they've got a pretty broad spectrum there that within the PD to do whatever they want. Is that correct?
Within the language, correct. It depends on how you want to look at it. They have certain land uses listed within sub-areas, and then again, they would come back to your respective planning commissions to meet that intent with a final development plan when they did those buildings. And that's kind of what the joint plannings commissions wanted to see is they liked the intent, they wanted to continue to proceed forward, just have that public review.
You know, the reason I ask is years ago, Lincoln County built zone commercial down there south of what's 57th or 69th, and
69th
built
and
those
Sundauer?
storage units,
Uh-huh.
and they never would have been allowed in the city plan. And somehow there wasn't a joint jurisdictional at that time, I guess. I was just trying to make sure we avoid that situation.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes unanimously.
The county has approved the amended motion. Now, with the city council, is there any further discussion on the amendment as proposed? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote from the city council on the amendment to this motion.
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0 from the city council. I would probably recommend that the county then move on with the motion as amended. I'll defer to Commissioner Pecos.
Actually, I think that was the motion that was made by Commissioner Barth as voiced by Councilman Brown. So
That's correct, Mr.
I think we've
Chairman.
already passed it.
The city needs to do the motion as amended.
Okay. Well, thank you, County Commission. According to the city clerk, we would still like to have the city council approve the motion as amended. Could I have a roll call vote on that, please?
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. There are no further items. Would the county commission or the city council, do you have any comments you'd like to relay to the people?
I do.
Commissioner Pecos?
Something that Commissioner Barth brought up, I think needs to be clarified. You know, we're moving into tax season, and we're starting with joint jurisdiction, and something jumped out at me that made me think regarding sub-area A. We have to remember that if we have a nonprofit and they mix their activities with for-profit activities, you risk your tax-exempt status. So obviously you could set up a convenience store, but it could operate obviously as a nonprofit, not for-profit activities. So I just want to be very mindful. Don't mix in your for-profit activities with nonprofits. So, and we all get the refresher course at the beginning of equalization, but I just want to be very cognizant that you understand that. So.
I'll move to adjourn on the city side.
Second, let's.
Councilor Brown has made a motion to adjourn on the city side. It was seconded by Councilor Bob Litz. Any further discussion? We could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing.
That is passed 6-0 from the city council.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. This joint meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council and the Minnehaha County Commission